today with another workout for you. What we've heard from you guys is that you really enjoyed the stretching and mobility series that we were doing previously, so we're bringing it back with a little bonus today. We are going to talk a little bit about relieving low back pain and how you can do that, attacking it with foam rolling, with our trusty dusty Amazon basic foam rollers, and dynamic movement / mobility, a little bit about what mobility is, and then also with stretching, static stretching to be precise. And we're going to target just some main muscle groups that cause low back tightness, because for a lot of us, low back tightness is related to our careers or to our lifestyle in which we are perhaps sitting a lot, which causes a lot of muscles to lengthen and others to tighten, and then our pelvis gets pulled on, and then we end up with some low back pain. So today is going to be a lot about our hips and our low back, releasing and opening up. So even if you don't have any low back pain, this is going to feel phenomenal. None of us necessarily have low back pain, but we can all use some mobility work on our hips and our low back and our glutes and all of the associated muscles around. So if you have a foam roller, please go grab it. If you don't have one, take a look below in the description and get yourself one today. This thing is like 20 bucks on Amazon. It is a pretty decent density. I think they consider it high density. And it is the full length version, which I think is super functional, not for necessarily anything we're gonna do today, but for doing a lot of other mobility exercises with. And a mat. We're on our turf here at the gym, which is pretty scratchy, so we are all using mats, but if you don't like a mat at home, you certainly don't have to use one. But we're gonna get started with some foam rolling, guys. Okay guys, so if you are not on the floor already, make your way down with your foam roller. We're gonna kind of work in a circular pattern here. We're gonna start on our hamstrings, around to our IT bands, over to our quads, up to our hip, and then back around to our glutes. Then we'll switch sides. So you're gonna be doing some rolling over and flipping, but because at the end we're gonna finish with static stretching, we do want your muscles to be a little warmed up through the process of this foam rolling series, and then also the mobility exercises we do next. So for those of you that have not foam rolled your hamstrings or maybe don't know where they are, those are the muscles located on the back of your thigh. So you can choose to roll on two legs, or you can choose to cross one leg over the other and get more of a load, or to put one leg down for a little bit of balance and control. And we're just gonna rock back and forth here, trying to work the whole hamstrings from the top to the bottom. So trying to work all the way up to your butt and all the way down to your knee. General rule of thumb, if something feels super tight, maybe you want to spend a little bit more time there. If something is super painful, that's probably a problem area, provided that you have no injury specific to that area. I would say it's generally speaking safe to keep going. If you are in a ton of pain, perhaps your foam roller is a little too dense or firm for your pain tolerance or the status of your muscular tightness. So that was about 30 seconds, and we're gonna roll over and work onto our IT band. So IT band runs from the iliac crest down to your tibia, and hence the name IT. So we're gonna roll from our hip all the way down to our knee here, trying to keep that leg just slightly off the ground so that we can continue to roll top to bottom. I have my top leg crossed over the front. You can also have it down low, but you do have to support most of your body weight here with your upper body also. For me, I feel the most amount of tightness as I go lower, close to my knee, so that's where I'm gonna spend a little bit more time here as we work.
Mine's definitely up by my hip.
Yep, so go wherever you feel it the most. And that was about 30 seconds, so we're actually gonna flip over, and now we're gonna go on our quads. So those of you who don't know, our quads, 4 muscles, that's where the term quads comes from. They're all in the front of your thigh. So staying on the same leg, you can either rest both of your legs on here, you can offset your foam roller to only roll on one leg at a time. You can cross your legs over to get a little bit of additional weight or pressure onto that leg. You can keep one leg out to the side like I'm doing here with my knee on the ground. But because there's 4 muscles in there, guys, you do kind of want to try to tilt your legs around, kind of turning your toe inside and out, tipping it to try to target the different angles on your muscles here. And again, if you find an area that is really tight, please stay there, work it back and forth a little bit. Maybe stop like Jane is with a little bit of pressure directly on that location. So she looks like she's in on maybe her vastus medialis. So we've got about 5 more seconds here. Then we're gonna go up to our hip flexors. So for our hip flexors, what you wanna do, basically if you're sitting, guys, your hip flexors are kind of in the crease, all right? So you are gonna try to take that foam roller, put it directly in the crease, and then you are gonna rock your body back and forth so that the foam roller kind of does this across. You might have to roll around a little bit top and bottom to figure out where's the best spot, but you should be essentially weighted heavily to one side, trying to figure out where it might be tight in there. You shouldn't be above your hip bone. You can rock out to the side, coming right back in. So I definitely feel a little bit more tightness as I rock out a bit. Small movements in there, just trying to make sure that we're loosening up those hip flexors that get so commonly tight from seated because they're permanently in that flexion state. You're just sitting with them shortened all day long. So we want to stretch them out, loosen them up this way, breaking up the myofascia so that they can accept a nice stretch and elongate again, which will help rebalance that pelvic position a little bit. All right, 5 seconds here. We're gonna go over to our glutes. All right, taking a break there. So, try to show you guys that side view here. I've been on my left leg the whole time, so stay on the same leg. You're gonna cross your left leg, or whatever leg you were using, over the knee of your opposite leg. Lean into the hand of the same side that the leg is crossed, and we're rocking from rocking along our glutes here, rolling. You can kind of tip your body weight, your body closer towards your foam roller. You can open up a little bit more away and target those glutes a little differently. So we'll spend another 30 seconds here, guys. If you find somewhere super tight, for me it's right there. I'm just gonna rock back and forth here, nice and controlled. That was a really good one. This feels deep like my piriformis. And I'm gonna stay right there. Spend a little extra love in here. We got about 10 more seconds. And then we're gonna start this whole series over on your other leg. So we're gonna start back with our hamstrings and take a break. Because I did so much explaining in that round, we'll do a lot less, move a little bit quicker here. But remember, we're starting with our hamstrings. So cross your leg over, leave it on the ground. All depending on how much pressure you want on the hamstrings themselves. But remember, same thing, turning that toe in, turning that toe out. Trying to just find a different angle on your hamstring muscles. Working from your knee all the way up to your hip. So hopefully you guys are feeling a little warm by now, because I am. Just getting them moving. Do a lot of core control and upper body work when you're foam rolling on your lower body. Got about 5 seconds here. And then we're gonna go to that IT band. All right, let's move on to our IT band. I'll just try to get into position all over again. So remember, IT bands on the side of our leg. And we are looking to work from the top up near our hip, all the way down near our knee. And you will be tighter in one area, most likely. At least we all are. Are you tighter at your hip again?
Oh yeah.
I think so. You kind of just title around.
It's
You're
the
tighter
whole
at your hip? I am ridiculously tighter at my knee.
Ooh, found it.
So if you get something that sends some good feedback like Jane is having, stay there, try to take some deep breaths, try to get that to work out. We'll take about 5 more seconds here and then we're gonna flip over to our quads. So you just keep rolling right over on, moving that weight, stomach and chest faces the floor. We're going to our quads. So I'm a big fan of offsetting the foam roller. So if you didn't try that last round, I really recommend you try it. And again, we're just working knee all the way up to that hip. Try to hit different angles so we're turning our toes out away from us and then inward towards us and feeling all the little knots in there.
It's so fun.
Oh yes. It's about 10 more seconds, guys. And then we are going to our hip flexors before we finish off with our glutes. And good. So hip flexors, remember you're gonna put that foam roller right in the crease of your hip. Kind of move a little north to south, and then try to rock those hips side to side until you find a nice tight point, or just keep working up through there. Your hip flexors are shorter muscles in terms of their length compared to hamstrings or quads, so you don't have as far to go. But this side's a lot tighter on me. So we'll take another 10 seconds here. And then we're gonna switch to our glutes, and we are on to a little bit of mobility. All right, on to our glutes. So remember that's sitting on our foam roller. So I'm on my right leg right now, so I'm crossing my right leg over my left leg and putting my weight leaned out into my right hand. And then we are rocking back and forth, pushing from our base of support here at our foot, trying to find where we might be tightest. You can always lean into 2 hands, especially if you're trying to work closer to your midline of your glutes or your butt crack. I guess it's not really your midline of your glutes, but the midline of your body. So it's a little bit longer here. If you find a good spot, remember to hold right through it. This is a great series for you to remember after any workout you do. So, Jane keeps falling over. All right, guys, so hopefully you feel like you identified a few sore spots. If there was anything that was super tight, make a mental note of that to kind of go back and work on it each time. We are gonna go on to a little bit of mobility, so let's get rid of these foam rollers. Okay, we are now moving on to mobility. So we're gonna start with inchworms. There's only 5 exercises. We're gonna do 5 reps of everything. If it's a split side exercise, then we'll do 5 on each side. Really quick for mobility, guys, the idea is that mobility from the perspective that we're doing it versus mobility that you would get from a physical therapist. Physical therapy has a lot of hands-on manipulations for the joint. So what we're looking to achieve is the same thing but done without any hands-on needs. And by the same things, I mean the closest we can get, because we can only do so much without an actual physical therapist. So we're looking to improve the joint mobility, improve range of motion by following very specific guidelines when you do it. Otherwise, doing the mobility exercises doesn't really matter because you're going to get into a false range of motion, you're going to compensate in some way, and then you're just not going to get the most out of it. So be very aware of what your body's doing and what the cues are that we're giving you, okay? So we're going to start with inchworms. So I'm actually going to have Jane do them from the side. I'll have her face in towards me, yep, and Annie will face straight forward. And I will just talk you guys through it. So for your inchworms, we're going to start in a plank, hand plank at the high point. Now, right now, your knees should be straight, right? And your arms should be straight. You're going to walk your toes, inching them in, raising your hips up to the sky as close as you can go, but you are not going to let any weight come off your hands. So we're going to, yep, so weight can't come off your hands and knees can't bend. So if you need to back up a little bit, there you go. Now you see both of them finding their end range of motion. And then you're going to walk your feet all the way back out till you hit your plank, and then you come back in. So having to keep weight in our palms and having to keep our legs straight, our legs straight is one of the things that's going to help us put the most amount of load back into those hamstrings in this specific range of motion. So if yours is really short, you probably have super tight hamstrings, and that we can make a little bit of an assumption that that is contributing to any low back pain that you're having. All right, now we're going to go on to an iron cross. So again, I'll have one of you lay sideways, perfect, one of you facing at them. So iron cross, we're going to have our hands out to the side in a T. We're going to have both legs forward. What I want to be specific about today is that as Jane raises up her leg here, this leg that I'm standing with my feet around, her toe, she's going to try to keep that pointing to the sky. So Annie's going to try to do the same thing as well. It's going to put a much greater load into the hip. We're going to bring our leg back up, and we're going to lower it down, bring it back, or switch sides to the other, and cross over. So you really want to fight your body's inclination to just fold open as you do this. By keeping that toe pointed to the side, putting a little bit more of the load or the stress, in quotation marks, into that hip joint so that we're really working on elongating at the IT band, those external rotators at our hip to improve that low back discomfort that maybe we have. All right, the other thing, if you're super mobile, that you'll see they're doing a great job of is making sure that they keep those shoulders down on the ground. So if you're keeping your toe up, it's probably going to limit your ability to let your shoulders come off the ground. But if you're super mobile, you might be able to, which is okay, but don't let your shoulders come off the ground. So this is 5 aside, guys, and then we're going to switch into a new one. So this is called a Spider-Man rotation, or one of the many things that you could call it. So we're going to start with, you're going to get into basically a plank position where one leg is up close near your palms, all right? So I'm going to, again, let them demonstrate this. You are going to start with your back leg straight. So let's start with our knee up off the ground into a toe-loaded position. So from this spot, you're going to drive your knee to the ground and try to lift your chest slightly so that you feel a nice elongated spine and load into your hips. Then you're going to take the same arm as the leg that is forward, and you're going to rotate open towards the sky, getting a nice opening in your chest and thoracic rotation. Hand goes back down to the ground, and you're going to open right back up, staying in the same position that you were in. Make sure that you keep your chest open, though, every time you return that leg or that hand to the ground. So by keeping that chest open, you're going to put more of a stretch into that front hip flexor. Both of these girls have great thoracic rotation, so you see probably really well on Annie how she can stack her shoulders over each other every time she rotates. You'll also notice that she's keeping her front foot flat on the ground. We do not want to see you rocking on your front foot. One thing we don't want to see is that motion happening. Keep that foot flat as you open up every time, keeping that chest open as well. And so how open it is, there's no real answer to that. As long as you're not arching your back, your core is staying somewhat engaged, and the stretch is staying in the front of your hip, you're most likely in a good range of motion. If you have any discomfort, then you need to probably lower your chest a little bit, maybe move yourself back out of that large hip drive. Okay, next one is called 90-90. So we are going to sit You want to just face them an angle that way. So you are going to work your knees, keeping a 90-degree angle at your knees from side to side. So you're going to want to start with your feet a little bit wider than your hips to start, and then we're going to lean back into our hands like Annie and Jane are, and you're going to allow your legs to fold open to the side, and then you're going to switch over, fold open to the other side. So for me, on this side, you see my hip comes up. I don't want to do that. I got to kick my butt down to the ground. Clearly, I have some tight outside hips, right? We're going to do 5 on each side, just alternating through. You want to be nice and smooth with this. Don't force yourself into the range of motion. Try to keep your 90 degrees, what you're looking for, at your knees and your hips as you work through it. But you should feel that nice, gentle stretch either along your adductors in the middle or the outside of your hips. Got them all? Okay, so last one is called an infant squat. So we're going to stand up. This stretch definitely has, or mobility drill definitely has the most amount of steps to it. So it's probably the hardest. So stay with us as we do as we go through this. But we're going to start. Think about where you're most comfortable doing a squat and pick that stance from your feet. So I'm usually just, at these days and ages being pregnant, I'm a little bit wider and I have a little turnout in my toes that allow my hips to pass through. Annie's a little bit more narrow, which is totally fine. Jane has a much bigger turnout than I do because that's where she's comfortable. So find that spot. You're gonna start hands up. You're gonna reach forward, keeping those legs relatively straight, grab your toes. Then you're gonna bend your knees, drop your hips down, and make sure that your chest is upright when you're in the bottom. All right, so for some of you, that might be this position. That's completely fine. You gotta work with where you are at. From that position, you're gonna lift one arm, and then the other, and then we're gonna stand all the way up. You go right back into it again. So reach forward, grab your toes, drop your hips, open that chest up, one hand after the other. Really big key is that you can only go as low as all of your weight is staying back in your heels. So if you're dropping your hips super low, but your toes are loaded and your heels are off the ground, you can't go that low, all right? If you have any shoulder pain or discomfort with the arms, don't force them back behind your head as far. If you have any low back pain, don't force your arms back any further, all right? We're trying to open up the hips. And that was 5. So that is the mobility section, some great exercises that you could use before a warm-up, or if at the end of the day you're super tight after sitting at the desk all day, it's a great little section to incorporate. Next up, we're gonna do some stretching. Here we go with the part 3, guys. This is stretching. So static stretching is something we try to do after we're warmed up. For the maximal effectiveness, we are going to go with the same order that we foam rolled in. So hamstrings, IT bands, quads, hips, and glutes. So we're going to start with our bands, which, as we've said in a lot of our videos, they're our favorite. We'll link them down below. It's a nice, beautiful infinity band. It's a little bit thicker, so it has more resistance, easier for stretching. So first one is a hamstring stretch. So you are looped around your foot. You're either taking the double loop that Annie has or a single loop that Jane has here. Either one is fine. That's arguably the safest way to do it. So cue to Annie for being the safety police here. What you notice from both of them is that they're keeping their heads flat on the ground and they're keeping their shoulders down. That's the benefit of having the band. You keep that nice, correct posture and put that load or that stretch all into their hamstrings. So from here, they're gonna go directly into an IT band stretch. So that's going to be allowing your foot to cross over your midline down towards the ground on the other side. So now how far you can go all depends on how tight you are. But we do want to follow the same upper body restrictions, trying to keep both shoulders on the ground, trying to keep our head rested, and everything neutral. So there's kind of a fine line you play here between how close to the ground and how high up should your leg be. You've got to find the point that puts the most amount of stretch down the side of that leg from your hip down towards your knee. So 3 more seconds here, 3, 2, raising that leg back up. So now we're gonna flip over to our stomachs and we're gonna go through a quad stretch. So our quad stretch is gonna require us to loop our foot into the band as well. You see see Annie got hers wrapped around before. Jane is looping herself in now, whichever one works better for you. But all you're doing is using that band to be able to pull your foot towards your butt. So you're looking to get that heel down towards your butt. You're looking to feel that stretch all through the front of your leg. If you're uncomfortable laying on your stomach, you can always do this side loaded. So just laying on your side as opposed to your stomach. If you guys take a, there you go, there's Annie showing us here on the side. You just want to make sure that you're keeping your core slightly engaged. You're just not allowing yourself to arch a lot as you pull that weight or that foot towards your butt. All right, so we are actually going to get out of this position now, and we are going up into a split kneeling position for a hip flexor stretch. So just starting off nice and basic. There's no band needed here. You should be able to squeeze your glutes, keep your core tight, and feel that stretch through your hip flexor. A lot of people want to drive their hips through. Jane, if you could just push through, and then they end up extending their back. That's something we don't want to do. So we like to pull back to that start, flip your pelvis under with a little bit of a tilt, feel your glutes engage, and that'll help via reciprocal inhibition, help that hip release a little bit. It gets super tight from sitting all the time. So one way you can make this a little bit more dynamic is to actually take the strap that is looped around your leg and you can pull it up towards your butt, giving yourself a greater stretch, which you might feel a little bit more now in your quad, or it might make your hip a little bit more intense. All right, so now we're gonna go on to our glutes. So we're gonna lay back onto our back. We're gonna do a standard figure 4 stretch. I just wanna show you guys how you can do a figure 4 stretch with the help of a band, depending on how tight you are. So you can see how Annie has this figure 4 stretch. She's able to keep her shoulders on the ground and her head nice and relaxed, but her legs or her fingertips are looped behind her leg, pulling it closer to intensify the stretch in her glute. Now, if she was not flexible enough to do this and she made it look really bad, she'd be picking her head up off the ground, trying to hug everything in because it was too hard for her. So if that is where you are at right now, you can take this band, and Annie will grab onto each side of the band, and she can use that band to help pull herself in and pull that leg closer if she needed that additional force load, okay? So a couple more seconds here. We're gonna do all the same stretches on the other side of our body. So whatever you need from that band in order to get the best stretch, go ahead and take it. So switching legs, guys. Let's loop that band back around our foot. Leg nice and straight up to the sky. Other leg extended flat. Getting a nice little hamstring stretch going on here. So these muscle groups that we're targeting today, guys, are just some of the ones that are most commonly influence low back pain. It's not an exhaustive list, it's not a guaranteed fix, but it's a great place to start if you have no idea where to start, or if you just want to try to keep your hips looser and your body overall feeling a little bit better. So we are folding now straight across our body, moving our foot down towards the ground for our T-band stretch. In case you guys are curious or wondering, we are holding our stretches for right around 30 seconds. Most of the science and research says that 20 to 30 seconds is really a sweet spot for stretching, and if you're exceeding 45 seconds in a minute holding a stretch, there's not necessarily an equivalent benefit. So all that means is that if you hold a stretch for a minute, you're not getting 30 seconds worth of it. You're better taking a break and coming back to it for another 30 seconds later. All right, take a break. We're going over to our stomach for our quad stretch. So you can see Annie and Jane this time choosing to keep the band looped around their leg as they switch over. It's a little bit easier than trying to get into that situation and then stretch. But if you, again, in this position, need to feel a little bit more of a quad stretch, it might help by engaging your glutes a little bit as you pull that heel towards your butt. So we've got 10 more seconds here, and we are going to go into our split kneeling stance. And go ahead, release that band. We're going into split kneeling so that There you go, the foot that, or the leg that you are stretching should be behind you so that we can stretch that hip. All right, so again, remember that we are squeezing our glutes, flipping our hips under, tilting that pelvis so that we get the maximal amount of lengthening that we can in that hip flexor. And if you need an additional stretch or you just want an additional stretch, you can either grab your foot or grab your band and pull that heel close to your butt. So you'll see Annie, I don't know if you guys can quite see on your angle, but she's just holding on to her hand. You can see that this is okay for her to do because there's no change really in her upper body posture right here. She's not all of a sudden arching by trying to grab that foot. All right, guys, last stretch, we're going over to our back for a nice standard figure 4 glute stretch. Remember, if you need that strap, move it around the back of your thigh, hold on to either side of it so that you get a better stretch, or so that you can keep that head and shoulders relaxed as you pull your knee towards your chest to maximize the opening. The other thing that we didn't talk about when we did this side before is that where that knee is and the bent leg can have an impact. So be aware, are you leaning to one side? Are you rocking one way because you're so tight? Try to keep yourself nice and balanced along your back, and you should have some good results. All right, guys, that is it. I hope you enjoyed our little static stretching series. Again, something great, just incorporating those stretches after every workout to help you relieve any low back tightness, or if you're working all day, going for a walk and then doing those stretches so that you're a little bit more warmed up and your muscles are ready to accept those static stretches. Thank you guys for tuning in and checking out our low back pain relief video here, trying to give you guys a solution from a lot of angles, from foam rolling, mobility, and stretching. Kind of a well-rounded approach to treating yourself nicely. We are not doctors, we do not treat people, but giving yourself some good self-care to try to eliminate any pain that you have. Really quick, guys, the link's down below. We've got our infinity band, which Vanna White #1 is modeling here. And we have our foam roller, Vanna White #2. They're both not very expensive. They're great items. Added resistance. This one's great for doing pull-ups too. This one is great for tons of mobility, tons of foam rolling. If you don't have one, I can't stress it enough. You should get one. It can change your life. And then our mats are phenomenal as well. I think a lot of people have mixed beliefs on mats, but this is one of my favorite brands, if not my favorite. It's Manduka, if I'm saying that right. I think they hold up really well. They're super durable. We use them all the time in our gym. I've had a lot of other mats that shoes make them start to flake off. I know that mats aren't necessarily made to be used with gym shoes on, but I really appreciate how well these hold up to being used with gym shoes, because there's absolutely no flaking on these, and they're like 3 years old. So, great mats. If you guys need one for your house, you should take a look at them. Check the link down below. And shameful plug to shameless plug for you to subscribe to our channel and check us out on Instagram and follow along with us and tell us what else you'd like to see so that we can continue to create content that you guys enjoy and need. So obviously we make these videos for you guys. So have a great day and we'll see you next time.
Bye.